There's something profoundly transformative that happens when you go silent in a twin flame connection. Silence is not simply the absence of words, it's an energetic shift, a mirror, a space where everything hidden within both souls begins to surface. To the one who has been running, this silence doesn't just feel like distance. It feels like the universe suddenly stripped away the comfort of distraction. In the twin flame dynamic, the runner's mind often feels like a battlefield between longing and fear, between love and resistance. They are torn between the pull of their soul and the weight of their wounds. And when you, the chaser, finally withdraw your energy, that internal conflict becomes deafening. The runner finds themselves face to face with everything they were trying to escape. Let's uncover what truly happens inside a twin flame runner's mind when you go silent, what they feel, think, and realize, and how this phase shapes the deeper evolution of both souls. When you go silent, the runner's first reaction is rarely calm. On the surface, they might act indifferent or even relieved, but internally something shifts. Your silence doesn't feel like any ordinary distance. It carries an energetic weight that unsettles them. You see, throughout the connection, they had grown accustomed to your constant presence, your messages, your warmth, your unconditional acceptance. Even when they pulled away, they felt your energy reaching out. You were always there, holding space for them. But when that energy suddenly withdraws, the runner's world feels oddly quiet. At first, they try to convince themselves that this is what they wanted. They tell themselves that maybe now they can breathe, think clearly, or focus on their own life. Yet beneath that surface calm, there's a faint unease, a strange emptiness they can't quite name. It's the energetic void left behind when your focus, attention, and love no longer flow toward them. Over time, that void starts to echo. The runner might feel restless, distracted, or irritable without understanding why. Their mind rationalizes it as stress or exhaustion, but their soul recognizes it as the absence of your energy. This is when they begin to feel the subtle difference between emotional dependency and a soul bond. They start realizing that the connection wasn't about comfort or validation. It was something deeper, something that mirrored their very essence. The silence becomes the first mirror. It exposes what their ego tried to deny, that they had become energetically intertwined with you, not through attachment, but through recognition. And that recognition cannot be unlearned. For many runners, this phase triggers confusion. They might check your social media, think about texting you, or replay old conversations in their mind. But pride and fear hold them back. The more they resist reaching out, the louder their inner discomfort becomes. Your silence forces them into a space they've never dared to sit in before, one where their own heart becomes impossible to ignore. After the initial shock fades, the runner often moves into a stage of resistance. This is when their ego takes charge, trying to reassert control. They start convincing themselves that they don't need you, that they're better off, that this space is healthy and necessary. They may even distract themselves with work, hobbies, or new people to prove that they've moved on. But beneath that outer calm, a storm begins to brew. Your silence doesn't feed their ego anymore. It doesn't reassure them that you'll always be waiting, and that loss of emotional reassurance threatens the fragile sense of control they've built. At this point, the runner might feel waves of irritation or frustration they can't explain. They might project that discomfort outward, blaming you for pulling away or accusing you of not caring anymore. In truth, they're battling their own shadow. The part of them that feared abandonment is now feeling exactly what it always feared: the possibility of losing you. This stage is crucial because it begins to dissolve the illusion of control. Many runners operate from the subconscious belief that they can dictate the pace of the connection, that they can leave when it feels too intense and return when it feels safe. But your silence quietly breaks that illusion. It reminds them that connection cannot exist without mutual energy, that love cannot thrive in avoidance. Inside, the runner begins to realize that avoidance doesn't equate to freedom. In fact, it creates more tension. They may try to busy their mind, but their soul keeps pulling their attention back to you, in dreams, in memories, in random moments throughout the day. It becomes harder to suppress the emotional current that ties them to you. What they're really experiencing is the ego's rebellion against the soul's truth. The ego insists on safety and self-preservation. The soul craves unity and growth. When you go silent, that conflict intensifies. And as much as they try to deny it, part of them begins to long for your energy again. Not because of dependence, but because your presence brings a sense of home that nothing else does. After resisting the connection for some time, something strange happens to the runner. Even though you've gone silent, they still feel you. This is one of the most confusing stages for them because it defies logic. They start noticing that no matter how far they run, no matter how long it's been since you last spoke, they still sense your presence. You appear in their dreams. A song, a scent, or a random phrase reminds them of you at the most unexpected moments. They feel your emotions subtly, especially when you're thinking about them. It's as if your souls continue to communicate beneath the silence through the invisible threads of energy that connect you. For the runner, this is unsettling. Their logical mind can't explain it. They try to dismiss it as coincidence or imagination, but the experiences persist, and slowly they begin to question what this connection really is. They start realizing that it's not something that can be severed by distance or silence, because it's not bound by the physical world. This stage often sparks their spiritual awakening. The runner begins to sense that there's something greater at play, something sacred that goes beyond reason or definition. But awakening doesn't happen all at once. It begins as quiet curiosity, as a soft inner whisper asking, what if there's more to this? Your silence, therefore, becomes a sacred catalyst. It forces the runner inward to explore what they've been avoiding, their own feelings, fears, and patterns. The absence of your energy redirects them back to their own. For perhaps the first time, they begin to confront themselves without distraction. During this stage, they might start feeling drawn to spiritual concepts or signs they previously ignored. They may find themselves reading about soul connections, energy bonds, or synchronicities. They're searching for understanding, trying to make sense of what their heart already knows. And though they may not reach out yet, something within them is changing. They're beginning to recognize that this silence isn't punishment, it's an invitation to evolve. As the runner begins to awaken, they start reflecting on the connection with new eyes. They replay the moments you shared, the depth of your love, the things you said, and slowly, realization sets in. They see how deeply you saw them, how effortlessly you accepted parts of them they had always hidden from others. For many runners, this realization is both healing and painful. It feels like remembering home while knowing they walked away from it. They start understanding that you didn't love them for who they pretended to be. You loved them for who they truly are, beneath the masks. And that kind of love is rare, even frightening for someone who has built their identity on self-protection. Now, in your silence, they start to feel the full weight of that truth. They begin to realize that their avoidance wasn't just about fear of rejection, it was fear of being truly seen. Because being seen meant being vulnerable, and vulnerability meant surrendering control. The silence becomes their teacher here. It reflects back every emotion they tried to suppress when you were near. They start feeling what you once felt: the ache, the uncertainty, the longing. The roles reverse energetically. Where you once chased, they now begin to feel the pull. This is often the stage where empathy begins to awaken in them. They begin to understand what their running might have put you through. They can now feel the pain of disconnection, not as punishment, but as reflection. Through that mirror, they gain a deeper awareness of love. Not the kind that seeks possession, but the kind that understands responsibility. In this stage, many runners begin to heal their emotional wounds. They confront the reasons they ran: old traumas, abandonment fears, feelings of unworthiness. Your silence becomes the safe distance they need to explore those wounds without external pressure. It allows them to rebuild a sense of self that isn't rooted in fear. And though this process may be invisible to you, it's sacred. It's the inner alchemy that begins turning resistance into understanding and fear into growth. After prolonged silence, a deeper realization dawns within the runner. They start to recognize that what they shared with you was not an ordinary love. It wasn't just chemistry or emotional attachment. It was something divine, something orchestrated by the universe to awaken both of you. This understanding doesn't come easily. It often emerges after periods of confusion, loneliness, or even heartbreak from trying to replace the connection elsewhere. But nothing quite feels the same. No matter how much they try to move forward, they feel a quiet pull guiding them back to themselves, and by extension, back to you. This is the point where the runner begins to awaken spiritually. They start questioning life at a deeper level, their purpose, their relationships, their patterns. They may notice synchronicities, numbers, or dreams that seem to hold meaning. And with every sign, they feel that familiar energy of the connection resurfacing, gently reminding them of its truth. In this awakening, the runner begins to see the purpose of your silence. They understand that it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. You were never trying to hurt them. You were honoring your own energy, allowing space for growth. And in doing so, you became the mirror that helped them see their own soul. They start realizing that love doesn't mean constant contact or reassurance. True love, especially in twin flame connections, means growth, freedom, and self-awareness. It's the kind of love that calls both souls to evolve, even if that means walking separate paths for a while. At this stage, the runner often feels deep gratitude for you, even if they never express it. They understand that your silence was an act of love, a boundary that encouraged transformation. And while they may not yet know how to bridge the gap, they begin to carry you in their heart differently, not as a lost love, but as a sacred teacher. This is the moment where the energetic balance between both twins starts to restore. The chaser learns surrender, and the runner learns awakening. Together, even in silence, the connection evolves into something purer, love without fear. After spiritual awakening comes the quiet pull of the heart, the unmistakable calling back toward you. But this time, it's different. It's not rooted in fear, guilt, or loneliness. It's born from understanding. The runner begins to miss you, not because they crave comfort, but because they now recognize the depth of your soul connection. They realize that what they ran from wasn't you, it was themselves. They were avoiding the mirror that reflected their own wounds, their own unhealed parts. And now that they've begun to face those parts, they can finally see you clearly. In this phase, the runner often feels a growing desire to make things right. They may feel called to reach out, to apologize, or to simply reconnect. But even if they don't take physical action right away, the energy between you begins to shift. You might feel their presence more strongly again, the warmth of their thoughts, the gentleness of their longing. What's beautiful about this stage is that the runner's love matures. It's no longer driven by need, but by recognition. They understand that love isn't about chasing or avoiding. It's about being present, being open, being true. If and when they decide to return, it's often after deep introspection. They come back not seeking to pick up where things left off, but to build something new, something more conscious, honest, and spiritually aligned. But even if reunion doesn't happen immediately, the runner's energy softens. They send love instead of resistance. They release fear instead of control. Your silence taught them how to listen, not to the noise of their mind, but to the wisdom of their soul. That is the quiet miracle of separation. It turns chaos into clarity, fear into faith, and longing into love that transcends time. At the deepest level, the runner eventually comes to a profound truth that you were never their enemy, their pursuer, or their trigger. You were their mirror. Through you, they saw everything they needed to heal. Through your silence, they learned everything they needed to grow. This realization brings peace. The inner chaos quiets. They no longer feel the need to fight or flee. Instead, they begin to see the journey as a sacred design, one meant to bring both of you closer to wholeness. They start understanding that union isn't about two halves coming together. It's about two wholes recognizing each other. It's about embodying love from within, so that when you meet again, it's not from need, but from harmony. The silence that once terrified them becomes something they now appreciate. It's the space that allowed them to awaken to love, not as an emotion, but as a state of being. And in that awareness, they finally find peace with the connection, with themselves, and with you. From here, reunion, whether physical or spiritual, becomes possible. Because true union can only exist when both souls have learned to love themselves. When you go silent, it's not a punishment to your twin flame. It's a sacred act of surrender. It's the universe's way of guiding both of you into your own growth. The runner needs that silence to awaken, to remember, to rediscover who they truly are beneath fear and ego. And you, the awakened twin, need that silence to reclaim your own energy, to heal your own heart, and to embody the love that has always existed within you. In truth, silence is not separation. It's communication on a higher level. It's the soul's language, where words are no longer needed because the connection speaks through energy. Inside a twin flame runner's mind, silence is the catalyst for transformation. It dismantles illusions, awakens truth, and builds the bridge back to love. So if you find yourself in that quiet space now, unsure, waiting, wondering, remember this: your silence is not the end. It's the sacred beginning of their awakening, and perhaps the most profound act of love you could ever give. When the runner is ready, when both souls have healed, the universe will guide the reunion naturally. Until then, keep trusting the silence, because within it, both of you are becoming the love you were always meant to embody.